Next up is Claire Pope, who is, well, she can, hopefully you've had a chance to read her bio, but she has a fascinating couple of clips that she's going to share with you and to tell you a little bit about her project. And then after this will be lunch.
Hello, everybody. I'm Claire Pope. I appreciate you bearing with me. I'm sure you're hungry, but I'm very, very thankful to have received the Artist Support Grant. And that grant was in support of a project that is very near and dear to my heart. So today I want to tell you specifically about that project and also touch a little bit on the process of grant writing and bringing it to fruition. So I thought I'd start by just telling you what I was doing before I started this project. So my work in general explores the notion of what I call ecstatic quietude and wonderment, really as experienced in nature during the present age. And I do that through an exploration of materiality. There are no boundaries with the use of medium. So I collect both natural and man-made materials, then combine them to create new works which raise questions about our current relationship to the natural world. So I do consider myself an interdisciplinary artist. Before I applied for this grant and started this project, my work was largely intended to be exhibited in a gallery. So for me, this project really represented a next step where I bridged into video art, but also into community art, ways in which I stopped quantifying what I was making and bridged over to contributing to social and activist issues that I was quite interested in and continue to be interested in. So the idea for the project, I should also say in preparation for this grant, my work is very conceptually based and research based. So the idea began really at the beginning of quarantine. In 2020, I am an environmentalist at heart, and I kept up with the fact that with the slowing of industry, with the slowing of consumerism, with the slowing of travel, the environment began to heal a little bit, right? So we saw specifically that 2.3 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions began to fall. And in the US alone, we witnessed a 13% decrease in emissions over the course of that year. I mean, it's astounding, right? So it really showed me and brought up some questions, even though those levels rose after we began to partake in society again. What can we learn from that period of healing? What can we learn by slowing down? And so that was the beginning of this grant, and this project was a question. At the time, I was also reading a novel, or actually it's a work of nonfiction by Robin Wall Kimmerer entitled Braiding Sweetgrass. I don't know if you all have read that, but it's an amazing book. And she was talking about establishing a more reciprocal relationship with the natural world in order to save ourselves and the planet. And so I was thinking about all of this coming together, and that's when I started thinking about the project specifically. And so what I wanted to do was document a section of land, a plot of land that had been destroyed by human use, whether that be industry or agricultural use. So I thought, first, if I'm going to do this, how am I going to do this? So I began to research cameras, specifically trail cameras. I don't know if you all have seen those small cameras. And thought, no, if I really want to do more of an artistic film, I need a better camera. So I came across this camera. It's called the Taiki 3 Pro. It's made in France. And it's completely solar powered, so it's sustainable, which really met my mission. I had no idea where I was going to film, and so I knew only that it would probably be in a remote area, so I couldn't charge it, right? I needed a solar powered camera. But as you can imagine, this came with a very large price tag. I had heard about the Artist Support Grant, and that's when I began the process. So even though I probably spent a couple weeks writing the grant specifically, this was months to almost a year in the making of research and note writing and things like that. So I applied for the grant. I was very, very thankful to have received it, but then I was like, where do I film? I have no idea. So I started reaching out to organizations, a couple of them actually, and Foothills Conservancy of North Carolina got back with me, and they had just acquired 652 acres outside of Morganton. And they said, hey, why don't you come here? We have 3 acres that have been overused by corn croppers and have never been rotated, so it's just wiped out. I went, I looked at the land, and I thought, this is absolutely perfect. From the beginning of planning this, I knew it would be called the Meadow Project, and this was indeed a meadow. So in January, you can see it was kind of a family effort. My husband and my kids and I went out to the land, installed the camera, and began to film. That said, I mean, when you're using this kind of camera, which uploads every image to the cloud, it takes a while to get the technology going and figure things out. So the first couple weeks were rough. It is a time-lapse camera, and I set it to take a photograph every 10 minutes. And the premise of the project from this point on was to film this plot of land for 6 months. But from the beginning, I wanted to create about a 10-minute time-lapse film, but I also wanted to share the process with others. So how could I do that and make it free? So I decided each week to create a time-lapse film of that footage. I edit it down to 1 minute and I post it on my website. And that way anyone in the world that has internet access can follow along with me and become part of the witnessing of this regrowth. So really my intention was to create a community of witnessing regrowth and giving us hope and that the earth can regrow if we simply step away and let it. So I thought today I would show you kind of a before video, 1 minute video, and then an after video. So the first one is from week 2. And you can kind of get an idea of what is on my website each week. It does not have sound, so. I should have noted it began February 8th, so this is winter. And then the second video is from week 16, which is the last video, so if you were to get on my website today, that's the one you would see. So one of the greatest surprises, and I will indeed say this has been a surprise because this is a complete experiment. I had never done a time-lapse film. I am not a digital photographer. This was all new to me. So every week is like Christmas when I get to see the footage or when I visit the meadow. But one of the greatest surprises have been the still shots, and this is an example of one. They have surprised me, this first one, because of the wildlife I've caught. I called this one the dinner party because it's a flock of turkeys and a few deer, and they're looking at each other kind of skeptical, you know, that tension when you have dinner and you're like, I don't know what to say. It feels almost staged. And it's crazy because you're taking a shot every 10 minutes, so they're gone on the next shot. So it's so fleeting. And then the other surprise with the still shot comes next, and there are these strange distortions caused by light, by moisture, and they're kind of abstract and ethereal, and to me, wonderful. And this is nothing that could be contrived, right? I wasn't there at this moment. I don't know if that's a lightning bug in motion that I caught, but to me, it's a representation of the other, to the connection that we can have with land if we invest our time in it. And I think I had one more shot of these kind of light bursts, and this is just a time-lapse camera. How is it capturing this? And it feels really nice to be an artist, but this is out of my hands. I can't contrive this. This just happened. So that's been a wonderful thing. And even though I had planned out the grant, I had planned out what was going to happen, and the grant, by the way, was wonderful, the process of making that planning, because it allowed me to clarify this vision. I could have never planned for this. But there's another aspect of this project in that I'm also making work along with it. So I do visit the meadow frequently. It's an honor. And when I do, I continue to collect natural and man-made materials. This is one sculptural work I created using old man's beard that I found in an old snail shell. I call it the brightness of decay. And then the next one is called clocks. I'm trying not to manipulate my materials hardly at all. This is simply a stick I picked up and cut, but I was so happy to find inside not only the tree rings, but this crazy split that looks like the hand of a clock and the central point. I didn't draw that in. So it really is representational of time and time through this whole project. So as I've watched this project unfold, I've found that it's not just about land and recording the growth of land, but about time and investing time and the passage of time and what the natural world can teach us about that. And this final piece that I'll show you is called Scrolls. So there's a grove of birch trees in between the river and the meadow. And so this is made from birch bark and corn husks that I found in the field. Thinking about if nature could give us a message, could write up something in a scroll, what would it be? I have no idea what that would be. Nobody does, but thinking about it is important. So with this last shot, I've put my website there because this is a community project. I hope you'll join me. I post a new video every Monday, and it's up until the following Monday. It will run until August 8th, even though the Foothills Conservancy has been so generous to let me film through December. So the Meadow Project builds on my intention to raise questions about our current relationship to nature, but it's also afforded me the opportunity to observe the experiment alongside a global audience. The project is currently being followed by humans from across the world. I've got followers from China, Australia, all across Europe, South America, Canada, and the United States. So I feel like I've reached my goal in that, you know, it's not just me watching this, it's others. And you can also sign up for a weekly newsletter. If you're like me, you get distracted and forget. So basically, I just send you a link that says I've posted this and some of my thoughts from that time. So in conclusion, I just wanted to put out a few questions that inspired this project and also that I included in my grant. So can nature heal itself? Can nature heal the damage that humans have done? What happens when we simply step out of the way? Is there hope in the Anthropocene age for environmental healing? Can we slow down as a society as a means of honoring and building a more reciprocal relationship with the natural world? Is there wonder in that healing? So my hope with the project is that I spur these questions, but also maybe that this is the first in many observational sites, and I just want to thank the United Arts Council for allowing me to start this project so that I can further it, possibly even internationally. Thank you.
So I was just curious, so I know you said that the property had originally been used for agriculture for corn. Had the soil been turned over after that was completed? And, yeah, sorry.
It had been turned over. There was still evidence of the rows of corn, but there was a slight undergrowth on it, which was interesting. Of course, in winter, there's, everything's kind of dead and crispy anyway, but I believe that the last crop was harvested in the fall.
And so a lot of the growth that you're seeing there now, was anything added to it?
No, and I'm so sorry. I'm so glad you asked that question. So no human manipulation whatsoever, no seeding, nothing. Digging, I wasn't even, they had me sign a contract, and I'm not allowed to even harvest greenery of any kind, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, I didn't see any volunteers there, which seems to me to be very unusual to have that amount of space and not have something grow up from previous droppings.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's one thing I'm working on now is documenting new growth and new species, new volunteers. There are some, and that's what you're talking about, right? Plant growth and volunteers. I have noticed some tulip poplars starting to grow up, and certainly all different kinds of what most people would call weeds. Things like mullein have grown up. Huge plants of mullein that are just gorgeous. But I'm anxious to document more of the species that are popping up.
What's your next project?
That's a great question. And so I work on multiple projects at once. I also have a painting series that I've been working on for about 3 years that I've never shared with anyone, but it's getting to a point where it's probably time to start sharing it. So I want to finalize that, but it also involves collecting natural materials and combining those with the paintings. I thought about this. I love that you said that.
It'd be fun to do something with urban decay.
Yes, I love that. And industry as well, especially living in Hickory. You see so many surrounding areas with either industrial growth, new industry, or just buildings that aren't being used anymore. So thank you. I love that idea.
Coming from New Mexico, grass is a weird phenomenon for me,
Yeah.
believe it or not, because there is just no water. And I try to explain to my family that when it rains, I can sit there and watch things grow.
Yeah.
And that's what you're showing in a time lapse, is just how it does grow, and that nature really does get out there, and this is phenomenon.
Thank you so-
that there's people all over this world, when they see this, they're just going to be like, wow, don't everybody flock here at once, please. And we're going to make it stop.
It's funny, I have a group of artists from grad school that I get together with, and when this idea first came up, I was worried. I was like, I'm literally asking people to watch the grass grow with me.
Yeah.
And but it's been that and so much more. I mean, what if we all took time to watch the grass grow?
Well, I think the pandemic has made us watch the grass grow.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.